القدس تنادينا القدس تنادينا قدس تنادي قدس تنادي قدس تنادينا.
Paper money started essentially like a check. You write a check, huh? Yeah, you want a BMW, you write a check for the BMW. Provided, of course, that you have money in the account, then you can get the BMW, write a check. But you took the BMW and you're driving down the road, and when they cash the check, you got no money in your account. This is called fraud. You'll be arrested, put in jail. You're writing a check and it cannot be cashed because you have no money in your account. That's fraud. This check will have validity if the check can be cashed for value. Then it would be halal. This is how paper money started. It started in Britain, the island of Tamim ud-Dari. Yes. The British created something called the Bank of England in the 17th century. And towards the end of the 17th century, the Bank of England issued the first paper money. And I've seen it myself. The picture of it is written exactly like a check. So long as this check, this currency now, let's use this word, so long as this currency was redeemable, meaning you could cash it, you could get the gold for it, it was halal. But guess what? Every businessman knows this. A man comes to your shop or to your store to buy goods. Would you accept a check from him without knowing him? No. He has to be a man whose character, whose integrity, and whose record is established. Or someone has to vouch for him. Okay? Then we can accept a check from him. Or, the other alternative, we must know who he is, so that if the check cannot be cashed, we send the police for him. And when they send police for him, he'll be arrested and put in jail. Yes, then we could accept a check from you. But those who are now issuing the checks, are they a people we can trust? No. These are the people who are now empowered with a power which is strange and mysterious, and they use this power for blatant oppression and aggression. Are these the people you can do business with? They send their armies and they colonize the rest of the world. And then they rip mankind of their resources. Yeah? With the hearts of beasts. Yeah? If ever there was a European who didn't have the heart of a beast, he could never make it to the top. No. He will never become part of government. He will never be in charge of the armed forces. This decent man who has a human heart, he will never, never make it to the top. The European civilization is now taken over by people who now control it and who have the hearts of beasts. And I have recognized them in previous lectures. You're dealing with Gog and Magog now. Stage 2 occurred after the end of the Second World War. Very interesting things happened before that, but I don't want to keep you here until 11 o'clock, so let's cut out part of it. You can get it in this book here, Prohibition of Riba in the Quran and Sunnah. And let me go straight to the end of the Second World War. The European powers who were victorious, they now called an international monetary conference and invited the rest of the world to attend. It was held in a place in upstate New York called Bretton Woods. And there were Muslim countries present. Saudi Arabia was there. It was held in 1944. And out of the negotiations of Bretton Woods emerged the Bretton Woods Agreement, which created a new international monetary system. Two important things were agreed upon at Bretton Woods. Number one, prepare yourself for it. Not all checks can be cashed, only one check. Which one? The US dollar. Only this currency can be redeemed for gold at $35 an ounce. So this is halal. But all the rest of the paper money in the world are now checks which cannot be cashed. You could exchange them for the US dollar, check for check, but you cannot cash them. That's the first agreement at Bretton Woods. And so now it's plain. The system is 99% haram, only 1% halal. That is the US dollar, which the US government has promised that if you come with US dollars, we will convert it for you to gold at $35 an ounce. We gave our word to you, and we will keep our word, and we put it on the US dollar. Did you see it? In God we trust. Ever saw it? The second thing that came out of the Bretton Woods Agreement was that not every individual can take his US dollars to have it converted into gold, redeemed. No, 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 no. Only governments, only central banks can do it, not individuals. So are we not a part of the market? This system is now 99.9% haram. It is only 0.1% halal, meaning that a government can go to the United States and say, here are US dollars that we have, we want you to redeem it for gold at $35 an ounce. You gave your word, now keep your word. So 0.1% halal. This is the Bretton Woods Agreement. And it lasted from 1944 until 1971. Some of you, I believe, must have been born already by 1971. In 1971, September 1971, the British government, island of Tamim Budari, the British government came in one Friday evening to Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam is the US government, and said, Uncle Sam, we got $3 billion US dollars here. We want to cash these checks. You promised on the Bretton Woods, you promised to do it. $3 billion US dollars to be redeemed into gold at $35 an ounce. Suddenly, Richard Nixon couldn't digest his food anymore. Why? Because he had written more checks than he had money in his account. If I did that, or Sheikh Faiz did that, they would arrest us. But who can arrest Uncle Sam? If he gave the gold to Britain, then Monday morning, who is going to be at the front of the line? Saudi Arabia. Because they got a mountain of checks for all the oil they've been selling. And they will say, if the British wanted the gold, we better go and do it quickly. But Uncle Sam didn't have the gold to redeem all that US dollars. So Uncle Sam retired to Camp David, Richard Nixon. And then on Sunday, he addressed the world and he said, we gave our word, but we don't have to keep it. And so the Bretton Woods Agreement collapsed in September 1971. After the collapse of the Bretton Woods Agreement, the world of paper money is now 100% haram. Surely the world of Islam would recognize that. Surely the ulama of the world of Islam would recognize that. But no, it was not to be. Illa masha'Allah. It was not to be. Between 1971 and 1973, an ominous thing was happening. From $35 to an ounce, it started to move to 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. And by 1973, it had reached 40. In October 1973, the war took place with Israel. And King Faisal, for whom we always say rahimahullah, imposed an oil boycott on the United States. You remember? And then all the Arab oil-producing states, they also joined in the oil boycott. Guess what happened to the US dollar? It collapsed by 400% overnight, from 40 to 160. Why? I ask this question, why? Because of an oil boycott, why should this happen? And then on the 15th of January 1980, the same thing happened again. Iran had had a revolution, and the Iranian people took control of their oil. More than that, they were threatening to export their revolution into the Gulf, where the oil is located. And then at the end of December 1979, the then Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan and took over the country. And Wall Street knew the reason why. Wall Street knew that the Soviet Union has done this because of fear of the threat posed by the revolution in Iran. And so Wall Street had their greatest fears confirmed. And on the 15th of January 1980, the US dollar collapsed to $850 to an ounce of gold. So we ask the question, why did this happen? There was no economic cause to explain it. None. The US economy was the largest economy in the world. Oil accounted for only 4% of the US economy. And the United States had enough oil underground to meet most of its own domestic needs. The United States preferred to keep its oil underground and get oil from Saudi Arabia and other countries, because this oil which was kept underground became a strategic reserve. And the oil that they got from Saudi Arabia was free of charge. You didn't have to pay for it. Did you hear that? Huh? Did you hear that? It was free. All that Uncle Sam has to do was to write checks that nobody could cash. One BMW, please, here's a check. Can I have a Mercedes, please? Here's a check. I have no money in my account. Or even if I have money in my account, you can't cash it. So all I'm doing is writing checks. And that's how they're buying the Saudi oil, with US dollars, which cannot be redeemed. They're just like checks which cannot be cashed. Well, then why did the US dollar collapse? There's only one answer. Only one answer. Only one. And that is that Wall Street knew what even our distinguished and respected ulama did not know. Wall Street knew that this entire international monetary system was fraudulent, batil, and that it will collapse one day. And they thought that that day had come. In 73 and again in 80. And so a Wall Street banker would not ask, would the international monetary system ever collapse? No, he wouldn't ask that question. What's the question he will ask? When would it collapse? That's what he would ask. Since 1980, something strange has been happening. And that is that there has not been any more collapses. The US dollar, in relationship to gold, has remained fairly stable for 22 years now. The price of the US dollar, the value of the US dollar in relation to gold, has been moving between, say, $250 and $400, up and down, okay? But no collapse. Why is this happening? The answer is, those who have constructed this system, those who are preparing to bring down this system, and to then take absolute control of the world of money as part of the means through which they will now rule the world. Rule the world. And the golden age would be said to have come back again. And so the Messiah must be here. They're the ones. For that subject, of course, please read this book, Jerusalem in the Quran. It'll explain that subject. What they did was to control the price of gold. Can you control the price of a commodity? Yes, if you can establish what is called a monopoly. Then you can control the price of a commodity. The Prophet ﷺ cursed the one who establishes a monopoly. In the late 19th century, when diamonds were discovered in southern Africa, the Jews were behind the diamond industry, the European Jews. And they wanted to take control of the diamonds, and they wanted to maintain the high price so that the price would not lower. So what they did, they used, of course, a British as a front man, so that Jewish face would not be up front. His name was Cecil John Rhodes. Cecil John Rhodes. And using Cecil John Rhodes, of course the Jew is behind him, Alfred Beat is the Jew behind him, and behind Alfred Beat is Lord Rothschild in Europe, a Jewish banker. What they did was to buy out all the other diamond mines. And those which could not be bought out, they got them to come together in one amalgamated company, which was called De Beers Consolidated. And once they did that, they were able to maintain stability in the price of diamonds at the level that would give them the maximum return. And so this is what has been happening to gold. Not for the purpose of keeping the price high, no. For the purpose of keeping the system from collapsing. We don't want it to collapse on its own. We want to bring it down when it will be in the interest of the State of Israel. That's where we are today, brothers and sisters. This is the history of what has happened since the first paper money was issued. The attack on America on September the 11th is the opening rounds. I have warned you time and again. The opening rounds of the countdown, which will witness the transfer of power from one ruling state to another, from the United States of America to the State of Israel. How does Imran Hosein know this? Where does he get this knowledge? Brother, the hadith is there. We've used it as the cover of this book. Sure, you can differ with me. I have no problem with that if you differ with me, that I have interpreted the hadith in the way that I have, and you are uncomfortable with it. Fine. But what are you going to do when Israel becomes the ruling state of the world? You'll remember me on that day, yes? Yeah? Imran was right. He interpreted the hadith correctly. Part of the process through which the Jews will take control of the world is the attack with money. This is riba. With the value of the money collapsing, going down lower and lower, she was working, you remember, for 40 bags, the black woman. And then the white South African government was slapped in the face by the US Congress in 1988. Why? Because the white world order, they don't want to look bad. And this was an eyesore in South Africa. So they wanted to get rid of this apartheid because it was embarrassing them. So they slapped economic sanctions on South Africa in 1988. And then the South African rand collapsed. It was 1.9, it went to 3 rands to the dollar. And the woman who was working for 40 bags of mealie meal or corn, she's now getting 20 bags. Huh? And then when the black government gave way, the white government gave way to the black government, 91 or 92, the South African rand had some color consciousness in it. Because as soon as the black government took power, it dropped from 3 rands to 6 rands. Strange things happening, eh? And then when September 11 took place, 2 aeroplanes hit 2 towers, and the South African rand thousands of miles away fell from 6 to 9. And so she was working for 40 bags of mealie meal. And then it went to 20, and now it went to 10. And then about a month or 2 ago, I don't know, it reached up to 12 rands to 1 US dollar before the South African government established a commission inquiry to find out where is this thief. And who is the thief? And so this is riba. This is riba. Why? Because of the verse of the Quran, وَلَا تَبْخَسُوا النَّاسَ أَشْيَاءَهُمْ وَلَا تَبْخَسُوا النَّاسَ أَشْيَاءَهُمْ. Do not diminish, make little the value of people's property, people's labor, people's sweat. It's haram. It is riba because of the hadith. If you rip off somebody, then that's riba. This is a rip-off. When the moment is appropriate, the US Congress has declared that Jerusalem must be recognized as the capital of the State of Israel. Of course, Bush can make a lot of noise. It doesn't make any difference. This is naturally going to cause tremendous anger even amongst those governments in the Arab world who shine Mr. Bush's shoes for him. Even they will become angry. And then Israel launches a missile in Gaza and kills about 12, 14, and injures about 110. Any country in the world today which had done that, the matter would have been in the UN Security Council already. The whole world would have been debating it. Send an army in this country. But Israel has done it, and Israel gets away with it. The reason for this is because there's a deliberate policy at work to get the anger of the Arab masses to reach boiling point. When they are convinced that it is now boiling point, that any little spark will catch the fire, then Mr. Bush must attack Iraq. When the attack on Iraq takes place, among the things that will result would be the collapse of some governments they are hoping. Which one, first of all? Abdullah in Jordan, which is why he's got his suitcases packed already. The West, which controls the media around the world, will now use the media for a crusade, media crusade, declaring that the world of Islam is now rising up to cut the throats of the Jews. The Jews are now faced with the most perilous moment in their history. I told you 2 or 3 nights ago, I said this is going to be drama worthy of Hollywood when it happens. And there will be even Muslims who are going to be convinced by it. Huh? It is at that time when the world is looking to Israel. What are you going to do? You've got to do something. Otherwise these Muslims are going to cut your throat. It is then that Israel says, okay, we're just launching a preemptive strike. But it's not going to be a preemptive strike. It is going to be the war which has already been planned long, long ago. It's going to be a lightning strike with the use of a military power unmatched in history. Dazzling war, it's called. And they will seize the oil of the Middle East. And the territory of the state will expand. Maybe that will be the knock which will bring down the whole system, monetary system. When the US dollar collapses and the rest of the world of paper money collapses, the United States can no longer function as the ruling state in the world. I anticipated, I said to you, that the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank would then disappear. That was a mistake on my part. No. All that they'll have to do is to reduce the status of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank so they become more like small institutions which do not have any global role to play. And power will now shift from Washington to Jerusalem. And now Israel will rule the world. I have used the hadith that when Dajjal is released, he will live on earth for 40 days, 1 day like a year, 1 day like a month, 1 day like a week, and the rest of his days like your days. To explain that the first day, it is Britain, which is the headquarters of Dajjal, using the hadith of Tamim Dari. But I said, this is my opinion. You're free to disagree with me. But if you want to disagree with me, close the door. You can't leave. No, you can't leave. If I'm wrong, you're going to tell me what the right answer is. The island of Tamim Dari. If it is not Britain, tell me which island it is. Then I said, if Britain is the island, in a day which is like a year, then a day which is like a month, it's the United States of America. And then a day which is like a week, with the state of Israel. And at the end of that would come a day which is like our day, so he'll be in our dimension of time. So now he appears, he's a Jew, he's a young man, he's powerfully built, he has curly hair, but I say nothing about his eyes. Why? Because when he sees with one eye, this symbolizes external vision. When he's blind in the other eye, this represents internal blindness. So no one can understand Dajjal. No one can recognize the strategies of Dajjal, whether it be the political strategy or the economic strategy all the strategy involved in the world of women, the feminist revolution, no one can understand it unless, in addition to external observation and rational inquiry, he also has nur in his heart with which to see. The question is asked, Sheikh Imran, how can we get that nur? I have only one answer to give to you tonight. And listen carefully and ponder over it, because I'm not going to say anything more than this. If you want nur, why don't you go back in the pages of the book on history? Go back in the pages of the book of history and see who are those who were blessed with nur in our 14 years of history. That's all I have to say. Nothing more than that. Israel now rules the world for a day which is like a week, and then Dajjal appears, and when Dajjal appears we have the Imam, and then the confrontation, and then the son of Mary, and Dajjal is killed and Gog and Magog are destroyed, and then the army from Khorasan and this state of Israel is destroyed. وَلَا تُقَاتِلُنَّ الْيَهُودَ وَلَا تَقْتُلُنَّهُمْ حَتَّى يَقُولُوا الْحَجَرُ يَا مُسْلِمْ هَذَا يَهُودِيٌّ وَرَائِي فَتَعَالَ فَاقْتُلْ. And then the Holy Land is liberated, and Islam will now rule the world from Jerusalem. Good. Now then, what do we do in the meantime? Do we sit down and wait for the Imam al-Mahdi? No, because jihad is already in force. We don't need any fatwa. The jihad is already in force in the Holy Land. And we already know that 2 out of every 3 who fight in that jihad will be killed. 2 out of every 3 will enter into heaven. That's the better way to say it. So those who live for Allah, bushra lahum, because they will die for Allah. Don't let any government change your mind. What do we do in the meantime? How do we survive in the new world of money? If we had it under the pillow, it's gone, now it's wallpaper. If we had it in the bank and we use it in a manner pleasing to Allah, they're seizing all the accounts, freezing it. What are we going to do? We won't even have money to buy chicken and chips. The answer is simple. Anytime you commit sin, the sin of abandoning the Quran, which we have done, the sin of abandoning the Sunnah, which we have done, we recognize that tonight. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knocks on the door of our heart and He says, Tubu ilallah. Tubu ilallahi tawbatan nasuha. Turn to Allah. Turn away from the sin. And when you turn with sincerity, turn with integrity. Don't turn watching behind your back. I'm turning away from it. To turn away from sin is to turn away, to turn towards the Quran and Sunnah. If you have a better answer, let me know. If you're uncomfortable with this, you need not have come tonight. You could have stayed home. You wasted your time. To turn away from this sin, we have to recover the Sunnah. Yeah? We have to recover the Sunnah which we abandoned. The Sunnah money which we abandoned. Tawbah. We seek forgiveness, O Allah, for what we did. And we're going to recover this Sunnah. Whoever is uncomfortable with that, you need not have come tonight. You've wasted your time. You can stay home, go listen to some other Maulana. But for those in whose hearts there is now pain and sadness, that we have betrayed the Quran and we have betrayed the Sunnah. And we want to make amends. We must recover the Sunnah money. Question, can we recover Sunnah money while having control over territory, so as government we can reintroduce this Sunnah money? Can we do it? My answer is, you need not accept it, my answer is, it is impossible to take control of territory anywhere on the face of the earth today in the name of Islam and restore the Sunnah money as the official money of that market. Impossible. Why do I say it's impossible? Because I have interpreted the Quran and Hadith to the understanding that those who today control the world are the world power of Gog and Magog. You differ with me? Fine. Go ahead. Wage a revolutionary struggle, and I will admire you while you're doing that. Take control of a territory, and when you have the control of a territory, then you bring back the Sunnah money. All right? Now then, if you agree with me that it is not possible to restore the Sunnah money at the level of state and government, is there any alternative? The answer is the macro option is not available, the micro option is available. And that is the Muslim village. If you go and find land where land is cheap and where there is water, and you build a village which is small and does not threaten the state, no. And in that village you have a market. In that market you bring back the Sunnah money. Okay, we're doing it in Indonesia, in the island of Java, and we have a shortage of gold and silver coins. What are we going to use as money? Rice, of course, rice. Okay, we're building the Muslim village in Durban, outside of Durban, in Natal, in South Africa, and we have a shortage of gold and silver money. What are we going to use as money? Sugar. Can we use mangoes? No, we can't use mangoes. Sheikh, your money is rotting. Your money is rotting, Sheikh. No. And so if we have a shortage of gold and silver, we can use commodities. But listen to the hadith with which we'll end, because I've spoken already on the Muslim village, and inshallah I'll be writing on this subject. When in Cape Town in Ramadan, I hope I can finish it. Inshallah. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, that the river Euphrates will uncover a mountain of gold, and every 100 who fight for that gold, out of every 100, 99 will be killed. And every one of the 100 will be saying, I am the one who will be saved. He said the believers must not touch that gold. There's a second hadith, and you will find these are hadith in this book, the prohibition of riba in the Quran and Sunnah. He said that the earth will vomit from its liver columns of gold and columns of silver. And so there's a massive amount of gold and silver that is going to come. He said that the Messiah, when he comes back, Isa alayhi salam, and the Imam, will be sharing wealth. You think it's paper dollars? What kind of money they'll be giving? US dollars? Oh, you must be joking. No, Sunnah money. Sharing wealth to such an extent that a man who wants to give zakat, to give charity, can't find anybody who would accept it. This is the tomorrow which is coming for those who hold on during this darkest hour of the night. Allah says in the Quran, فَلَا تَهِنُوا, do not give up, do not despair, do not throw in the towel. وَتَدْعُوا إِلَى السَّلْمِ, and go and make some kind of a patchwork arrangement with those in control. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. No. وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ. When you should rather be making that effort which will give you that power with which you will have the upper hand over them. وَاللَّهُ مَعَكُمْ. And in that struggle, Allah is with you, not with them. وَلَنْ يَتِرَكُمْ أَعْمَالَكُمْ. And Allah will not allow your effort to be in vain. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may bless all those who tonight make tawbah and commit themselves to the struggle to recover the sunnah money. Before we end, I want you to sit down. Our sisters have complained in the previous nights they never had a chance to go to buy the books and the videos and so on. So tonight, if it is possible, please allow the sisters to go while the question and answer session is going on. So sisters, you all can go now, and if you want to buy any books, you can get them now. Please sit down, please sit down, please sit down. All right, secondly, this here has a very nice history. This is a CD. This is a CD of the book Jerusalem in the Quran. It's not an audio, it's not a video, it is the book itself that you read. There's an Egyptian brother, a beautiful Egyptian brother in Kuala Lumpur, who lost his job. He has a wife, he has 2 children. And we got some money, and my wife took that money and gave it to him. Take this money and buy the empty CDs. Put the book into the CD form as an electronic book. He did that. I said, okay, now I'm going to get this CD sold for you, and whatever money we get, we bring it back for you. Because sometimes he doesn't have money to even buy milk for his children. These CDs are still there. If we can get them all sold out tonight, I'll be so happy, because I can take this money to that brother in Kuala Lumpur and hand it to him. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. If you have any questions, please keep sitting while the sisters are doing the purchases. If you have any questions, send the questions up.